Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
All right. Football's done for the day, for the weekend, which is very weird and different that it was all kind of bunched up. But yeah, talking about Premier League again.
On our Tottenham podcast we do on Patreon on Tuesdays, we kind of left it last week by saying we were feeling quite positive going into the season, but probably see you next week and we'll be 19th and 20th respectively.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely buzzing this morning, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to put, I think we should, Tottenham's only a good show for patrons when both clubs are doing badly. So I think we should just scrap it. I think it's time to retire that show because it doesn't seem to happen too often nowadays. Yeah, I can't complain at all. Greetings from, I'm on holiday this week in sunny and rainy Cornwall. This is the one weird part of the world that happens to be, every day happens to be really nice and sunny and really shit and rainy every single day. But there was nothing that could dampen my spirits yesterday after the victory. And even from an FPL point of view, it was kind of a funny old week. I think Twitter generally has been overwhelmingly positive because a lot of players have got very good scores. I think overwhelmingly positive could also be read as excessively positive because it's only game week 1. So small leads. Like I was curious on the rank difference. How many points make up how many places in rank, if you know what I mean? So I think here's a fag packet kind of sort of stab. You and me, there's 14 points between us, equals 1 million places in rank, which is monstrously large for 14 points in game week 1. So,
but if you think about it, 14 points over a game week anyway, actually, it is big. That's you could expect that to be about a million places. Yeah, over a game.
Oh yeah, in an individual game week, of course.
One game week gone, of course. Yeah. So I mean, very quickly turn. You get 14 more points than me next week. We're level, won't we? You'll probably be a million places ahead of me in game week 2.
I'm not sure how it will play out, but I just think it's very, very, very close. So people that got less than 80 points, for example, might feel like, oh, there's so many people in the 100 club. It's not even worth thinking about or worrying about at the moment. So I think the only thing that people should be doing, which we'll do on the show now, is evaluate your own decisions that you made and think through the logic of the ones that didn't perform, because they're always the ones that weigh on your mind. It's easy to look at the Antonio decision, for example, and be like, all right, that was a good decision because he scored and returned. But look at the ones that didn't return and evaluate those decisions and try in the early stages to just think about your decision-making process, not necessarily always the outcome. And that's the way I looked at it with my team, for example. So to give you an idea, I ended on 88 points, which is above average and gives me a rank of like 1.2 million or something like 1.3, I think, close to. And I look back at my team now and what could have been almost, because it started with Sanchez in goal, 2-pointer, which isn't great, but on any other given day, a referee might have given that as a foul by Tarkovsky on, was it Mope he pushed to the ground?
Yeah, it's a foul, in my opinion.
It's a double-handed push. There's shoving and barging with your arms and shoulders, and there's a straight in the chest, double-handed push. So if that hadn't been given, I know Burnley had other chances because these ifs and buts, you could say, well, if that hadn't happened, this would have happened. But that was a foul. That's my clean sheet gone there. Luca Dean lost his clean sheet. I mean, Michael Keane was still on holiday or something. I don't know what he was doing with that.
He had a complete meltdown, didn't he?
It was like he was taking the football on a roundabout, just running around in circles. I have no idea what he was doing. We get these when my kids are little and they get cones out in training and stuff, and they tell the kids to dribble in between the cones. It was kind of like he was trying to dribble doing something stupid like that. And that's Luca Dean's points gone. But still, Everton played well, looked lively, and could have had points there. Trent got points, standard, fine. I had Mo Salah captain, which was also very good. I also had Jota, scored and managed to get to 16 minutes, which is tidy. match Mason Greenwood, because that was one of my concerns in terms of price points. They were the two that could have been tossed up, as one could have gone big and the other that didn't. Harvey Barnes didn't return. I didn't get to watch much of the Leicester Leicester game other than the highlights. I don't know if they struggled particularly, but
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, Harvey Barnes still stays in the team for me. And then front line, Antonio scored. Ings, okay, I got away with that one, late penalty. And Ivan Toney could have returned as well against Arsenal. So none of the players that didn't return could have returned, really. It was fine margins in it. And Harvey Barnes might be the only one that I could have said. I don't know if he was close to, or might be a bad pick. And I come away from the weekend, James, with only one big regret. And it's 75% regret, I would say. And that's Tsimikas. Primarily because he ended up taking quite a lot of set pieces and bits and pieces with his left foot. And so his attacking threat is far higher than I thought it would be. I thought he might be much more of a traditional left back, not an Andy Robertson.
He actually put more crosses in during the game than Trent.
Yeah. So Tsimikas for me is a bit of a regret that I would have liked to have Tsimikas going into the next two weeks. But Jota outscored him. And it's a problem in the future anyway. And I can't have 4 Liverpool players. I can only have 3. So even this week, if I look at it with my...
Do you not know someone at Official FPL Towers who can fix this for you?
I wish I did, mate. I wish I did. So I can't get to Tsimikas anyway, which is why it's not 100% regret. If I could get to him, Tsimikas...
Nah, listen, my opinion...
maybe consider it, but yeah.
My opinion was, said to you last week, those who intended to go with Trent, Jota and Salah, stick with it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wouldn't regret that, mate.
No, but it's more the fact that he played in a much more attacking way than I would have expected him to. And to be honest, I haven't seen enough of him to know how he plays. But I look at that and I think that's one decision I might have made differently, but I probably wouldn't have, to be fair with you. So overall, okay. And tell us about your team, and then I'll tell you about my match of the day challenge as well, because I ended up doing that on Saturday, which was quite mad.
You picked a great weekend to do. Well, I say you picked a great weekend to do that. You missed some brilliant football as it was happening, and I thoroughly enjoyed Saturday and having all the games on at 3:00 again, the 5 games at 3. It just made for such a better experience.
Yeah.
I, unlike last year where I was trying to watch all 10 games every weekend, have not had that process. I've watched in fact, I didn't even watch Newcastle West Ham because I was in the booze. It was kind of half on, but I wasn't taking notes of it. So I only really watched the 4 live games. I was watching all the games at 3:00 on Saturday on dodgy streams, but I wasn't picking any out particular game. I kind of focused on Watford Villa a little bit, but yeah, it's a very different experience for me this weekend. Just to go back on your point in terms of your points totals, you got 88, yeah?
88.
It's a good score. There's nothing wrong with that decent. At all. I mean,
I'm happy with that.
Big picture, right? If I said to you 88 points prior to the game week started, you'd have been over the moon, right? Yep. It's just that a lot of other players have gone off as well. Interestingly, the lowest score from the Planet FPL correspondents, including our 6 correspondents in the championship, 78 was the lowest score. Highest score was Stephen Toomey at 6th goal of 118, but he did use his triple captaincy. Highest score without a chip was Jack Toner, Turfy Topper with 113. The actual mean score across the correspondence was 95. And I think that sets a more level of what I'm expecting in terms of engaged players, because the average of 69 is obviously extremely high, and it's not unthinkable that could be the highest average all season, honestly. Yep. But there's a lot of people in there who like set auto pick teams and forget they've done it, and they've scored. I saw, I think Rockstar posted someone who'd got like 22 points or something. So there are some really shit teams out there as well.
Of course. Yeah.
I scored 102, and I have no regrets on the choices I've made, and I wouldn't have anyway, because I've done the thought process for several weeks over to come to the conclusions. Nothing for Martinez, Shaw, Harvey Barnes. Clean sheets for Trent and Tsimikas. Ricardo Pereira, 12 points, which is particularly pleasing because it was the one real kind of punt that I really went with. 10 points for Sonny, 8 points Mason Greenwood, 34 points captain Mo Salah, 20 points from Antonio and Ings. I've even got 14 points on the bench. Goal Cucho, goal Ayling.
Yeah.
Can't regret either of those. Cucho didn't start. Ayling, his team conceded 5. So 102 points. Really pleased with that. Game week rank of just outside top 250k. He's great. And there's one obvious player missing from that, which is Bruno Fernandes. So, and it's easy for people to sit there and go, James, you'd have more if you had Bruno Fernandes. Actually, I wouldn't. I'd be on 96 if I had Bruno Fernandes. Because instead of going Greenwood and Pereira, I would have gone White and I'd have benched him and played Jack Harrison instead. And I'd have gone Emi Buendia. And I would be on less points. And it just goes back to exactly what you said. Is the process right in your thought process? And mine was, yes, I don't need that as a captaincy. Now, I'm in a position where pre-game week, my strategy was to roll. Nothing's changed. The only way I'm buying Bruno Fernandes is if Mo Salah gets ruled out between now and the weekend. There's no reason to believe that would happen with Liverpool not playing this week, unless he got an injury in training. And if I come through this week and still feel just as happy with my squad, then I will go Salah to Bruno next week.
Yeah.
And get Bruno to cover me game week 4 and then go back in game week 5. This was a scenario I talked about, but also said it was very unlikely I'd get there because I'd walk into big problems. Those bench players scoring for me, the likes of Cucho and Ayling, that's no bad thing because there'll be interest in Cucho at 5 million, even though he didn't start. There'll be interest in Luke Ayling as the high scoring Leeds player at the moment. And the rest of my squad's done all right. I mean, the only ones I could possibly be concerned about losing value this week, I think, are probably Luke Shaw and Harvey Barnes. And they're not going anywhere for me at the moment.
No, agree with you on both of those.
So I'm not making any changes unless I get some injury news this week.
Yeah, exactly the same as me, which makes it a little boring. Talking about this Bruno Fernandes situation. So I started my holiday on Saturday, so driving down to Cornwall. A lot of people won't know, but it's about a 7-hour journey from where I live in North London down to where we were. So we left at 5 a.m.
Hold on, did you go via France?
No, as in if you include stops for breakfast and all the rest of it. So it's a 5.5 hour drive, but traffic and food stops, call it 7 hours. But I left at stupid o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30. But by 12 o'clock, we'd made it down here and we just stopped for a bit of lunch. So stop at 12 o'clock, kickoff's in half an hour. But let me check the teams. And I saw Mason Greenwood on the SofaScore app was set up as right up top as a striker. And one of my big decisions was Jota versus Greenwood. And I just had that feeling in the pit of my stomach that Greenwood was going to go off. And I didn't want it to ruin the rest of my Saturday if Greenwood went off. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do the match of the day challenge. I'm in the middle of nowhere anyway. I probably can get away with it a little bit. I'm going to switch my phone off I'm going to switch my phone off. I'm not going to look at any scores. I'm not going to check anything, check any apps, check any points, anything. And some of the people I'm here with, I said as well, like, right, we'll do a match of the day challenge. We're not going to check the scores, none of it. And I couldn't get to the end of the day without some sort of alert or notification. Like our boy Andy, Let's Talk FPL, posted a video after Bruno scored a hat-trick with the title, Bruno scores hat-trick or something, and the alert popped up on my phone or whatever. So I didn't actually manage to get, I didn't know any scores. The only bit of information I had was that Bruno had scored a hat-trick, because there was just too many alerts on Twitter and this, that, and the other.
You probably thought, I'm in big trouble here. It's probably what you thought.
Yeah. No, do you know what I actually thought, James? I was like, the reason I was doing the match of the day challenge, because I thought Greenwood was the one that was going to screw me over and go big. And it wasn't. It was obviously Fernandes. So it was like, well, why was I worried about player A and completely forgot about the rest of the team? It was a stupid idea. And the match of the day is quite late, 10:30. I thought, so that I'm going to watch it the following morning. And at 10 o'clock, I just went down all the scores. And that feeling when you look at, when I saw what Salah scored, and then I did the maths, and I was like, oh, 6 points in it. And I'd known earlier in the day that, oh, Bruno's gone big. A lot of people have captained him. I'm definitely on a hiding to nothing here. And it worked out as 3 points. And with captaincy net 6 points, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things when a player scores a hat-trick. So there was a real nice, satisfying moment where you think, oh, okay, Salah's gone big too, because 17 points is no mean feat, and it worked out okay. And then I just watched all the games with quite a relaxed mindset, but I quite did enjoy not knowing any of the scores until the end of the day, to be honest with you. And I think the lesson is the one that you fear is probably not the one that's going to hurt you. You'll get hurt elsewhere.
Oh, sometimes the one you fear is the one that's going to hurt you. And let's be honest, it's easy for me to say afterwards in terms of, I hate the word essential. I think it's proof for me to score 102 points and not have Bruno means that he wasn't essential. I could have had Fernandes instead of Salah and scored even more. So Salah wasn't essential, right? So
yeah, I think it's more with Bruno. I'm like, we've seen it so often.
No, we've never seen him score a hat trick before. But if obviously
consistently point scoring double digits,
if Bruno had gone off, listen, at the end of the Man United Leeds game, my game week rank was like 3.5 million or something, right? And I finished at 250k. So if my other players had not performed well, it would have hurt. It would have damaged me, right? It's just that this week, so many popular players, even all the way down to like Son, Antonio, in terms of Twitter bubble, Ben Rama, all yesterday. So many players performed well.
Double digits is the thing, right? And we're not even mentioning. I mean, Bruno's taking the headlines away from the Manchester United fixture, but Pogba was in ultimate Paul Pogba beast mode. Like him like that just is a devastating football player. So there was the number of double digit goals because he scored what 16 was it himself?
Yeah, that sounds right. I think that's right.
Had Antonio not fluffed his lines with his penalty, he would have been up at 18, 19 points potentially.
Well, Pogba should have put United 1-0 up as well.
Oh yeah, he missed the one.
And the chance that Greenwood gave him. Imagine putting the extra assist on Greenwood and the extra goal on Pogba as well.
Yeah, and it felt to me as well, like I mentioned, if when we talk about decision-making process, the number of goals that should have not been scored, right, in terms of the Everton goal and Burnley goal and what have you. It felt to me like when I was watching Match of the Day, people were either scoring goals that shouldn't have been allowed to happen, or worldies, like Luke Ayling sticking it in the top corner, Kucha in the top corner. Because even Bruno's first goal, Meslier got to it. Had he been a bit stronger, wouldn't have gone in. Bruno's second goal, Luke Ayling shows a little bit more composure, and he might have kept the ball out rather than letting it trickle over the line a little bit. And suddenly there's 2 goals gone that I'm not saying he shouldn't have had, but on another day could quite easily have been kept out. And then on the other side, you see like Luke Ayling top corner, Bruno's third goal top corner, Alonso top corner, Cucho, what a great goal.
Decore,
they're right. Yeah, Decore smashed. It was like even the movement on Vardy's goal and stuff, and Pereira's bit of skill before.
John McGinn's goal for Villa. It was a period watching the 3:00 games. It was like weldy after weldy, mate.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was like, this is outstanding goals to be hitting and scoring, or absolute scuffers and grubbers that didn't deserve to. Well, they were what they were. Let's say, put it that way. So it all kind of balances out in the end.
What a great weekend of football. First and foremost,
I think for everybody, the most overriding feeling after FPL is wow, just nice to be back and seeing games and seeing crowds and a good weekend of football, no doubt.
It was a brilliant weekend for most people, unless of course you're a gooner. Is that a segue for you, Sid?
I was going to say, what a perfect segue. Let's kick off with Friday night football. Friday the 13th, unlucky for some, and as I said on Twitter, new season, same Arsenal. And I want to give them a bit of the benefit of the doubt. You lose Lacazette, Aubameyang, Saka's not playing, you've got no Partey. So maybe they weren't full strength, but you'd expect a bit more from Arsenal. And give some credit to Brentford. They said they were going to attack the Premier League. They attacked the Premier League and ended up taking the points quite comfortably in the end.
On Arsenal, I don't know,
comfortably. 22 shots for Arsenal's not a small amount.
I think they had the most shots in the game week, ironically, but they only had 4 on target, right?
Yeah, it feels like one of those stats that, yes, they did have a lot of the game, but they didn't deserve to win it.
I'd rather talk about Brentford than Arsenal, because it's always easy when these results happen to bash the big club and forget the little club making their Premier League debut. But just to sum up on Arsenal, Adam Pritchard at 350, our Arsenal correspondent, tweeted after the game and he said, if Aubameyang and Lacazette had played, it wouldn't have made a difference. And the reason it wouldn't have made a difference is Arsenal were so one-dimensional in what they were doing. They're two outstanding footballers on the pitch in Emil Smith-Rowe and Kieran Tierney. And that was Arsenal's left-hand side all game. Left-hand side all game. Interestingly, there was a lot of talk afterwards of Ben White's performance in terms of how much he was getting beaten in the air, and people might go and target that. Don't worry, it's not like Lukaku might make his debut this weekend. And Callum Chambers' performance at right back. Now, I agree, I don't think he's a right back, but it's worth saying, as much as people say, oh, Arsenal need a new right back, and they probably do. Like, they've been trying to sell Bellerin. It's Bellerin and Chambers in competition at the moment. The fact that Chambers is quite a handbrake on, he's a centre-back, really, in my opinion, does allow Tierney to fly down the left-hand side. So that might get reined in a little bit if they buy an attacking right back, for example. So, but I agree with Adam's opinion in terms of Arsenal just became very one-dimensional in the game. And I mean, the second goal, fucking hell. It's like, I've never seen Arsenal concede that goal before, but I feel like I have.
Yeah.
And I think everybody was of the same opinion. If you could pick a team like that who's going to concede a goal from a long throw-in that bounces in the penalty area and still gets headed in, Arsenal would be at the top of your list. Still a soft touch at important moments, mate. And there is a growing anger with Arteta. Like, they couldn't afford a bad start and they've had it. Chelsea and Man City next. They need to get something from those games or knives will be out.
Yeah.
And then, like, if they don't beat Norwich in game week 4, honestly, he might be done because there's too much anger now, especially with the fans back in the ground. They're already pissed off with all the ownership stuff that's been going on in the background, right? So
I felt a little knee-jerky on Friday night when I thought Arteta could be the first manager to be fired this season. But that's what I felt straight away after the game. I was like, oh, and it's one game, so I shouldn't be knee-jerky like that. But I'm with you. It's the same instant feeling that I got. Oh, my God, a couple of more bad results, and I don't think they'll stomach it.
You didn't have the feeling watching the game that they were going to turn it around.
No.
Now, that's credit to Brentford. And one of the things I was saying at halftime to a few people on Twitter was, so far, Brentford have played the occasion really well. They might get nervous, but they didn't.
No.
And it's credit to them. I loved one comment I received on Friday night was, why was no one recommending Norgard and Canos? Well, I can tell you that Norgard is a holding midfield player and is not going to score very often. And Canos is possibly not, although he played very well from right wing back position, though he scored coming in off the left, he's possibly not in Brentford's best 11 once Jensen's back available. And FPL dummy Tom Med, our Brentford correspondent, he absolutely nailed it by saying that because they've been flip-flopping in pre-season between a back 4 and a back 3. And he absolutely nailed it. And he said that he thought because Jensen was out, they would play a back 3. And that's exactly what they did. So the one that I think was exciting from an FPL prospect was Bru-Mo. 5.5 midfielder, played up front, looks really exciting. Him and Tony linked really well. Constant nuisance, constant handful. The issue is they might not stay with that system. Particularly with the games coming up, Palace, Villa, Brighton, Wolves, are games they might look at and winnable. Now, how you play against an Arsenal or another big 6 team or similar is not how you're going to set up necessarily against some of these other teams. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mbeumo's back on the right and it's a 4-2-3-1, for example, against Palace on Saturday. It's not to say it won't stay. It's just to make people aware that this does not mean that Mbeumo is going to play OOP all season. I don't think that's necessarily the case. And Tony, everything we'd heard was if he's not in and around the box and he's not getting service, games will pass him by like he's not in it. He dropped so deep during the game. And again, I wouldn't read too much into that. You can look at that and go, if he's going to play like that, he's not going to score the goals that he thinks he's going to score. He reckons he can get 16, 17. But again, in the upcoming games, it might be that he plays the position very differently. So I think if you're on Tony, like, no stress. Honestly, you ain't going to play Arsenal at home every week. And tactically, they got the game right. Fascinating, as I said, listening to Thomas Frank afterwards in terms of how they wanted to target Arsenal. We speak often about how teams set blueprints for how other teams should play against other teams.
Yeah.
We know that Man City are not going to knock diagonals into whoever their number 9 is in game week 3, but Chelsea might not be apologetic about it if Lukaku's in the team in game week 2. Lukaku wants a Ben White play from now.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if they do, you at the moment, you couldn't see Arsenal getting anything from the game.
No. I mean, Ben White, after the weekend, has moved further along my bench from first sub to second sub, and he may even be third sub by the time we get to the weekend.
It's not even a slight on Ben White.
No, because it was Arsenal more.
A lot of the talk was of physicality. I think he only won like 40% of his headers or something, which is, he's not the tallest centre-back. And although he won't grow in height at his age, he might grow in experience in terms of how to stand off people, when to go tight. What he probably needs, though, is someone to be really dominant next to him to take the pressure off. So,
I'll tell you who that's not, and that's Pablo Mari.
Well, exactly that. So Gabriel might be it. I suggest he's probably not, which probably means, although Arsenal just outlaid £50 million on a centre-back, longer term, they're probably going to need another one as White's partner. White's a very good player. Don't question that. But at the moment, he's possibly going to cause Arsenal a problem. One short-term solution might be to play him in midfield with Xhaka, by the way. He's good enough to play that position. We've seen that before. Although Lokonga played well, actually. It was outside the two main Arsenal players. I thought it was probably Arsenal's other player that could probably lift his chin quite high after the game. He played okay.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to the Saturday games. Manchester United 5, Leeds 1. Again, I caught the highlights. I mean, it just looked like United had chance after chance. And it felt like it was the speed with which they were getting the ball back to front was what was causing Leeds all sorts of problems. I mean, they were happy to chuck it in behind and chase and play it along and down the channels, but the speed with which they could move back to front and the quality of the weight of pass on a number of Pogba's assists and the through balls, just his range of passing was just something else. I looked at it and just thought, okay, Pogba's in the mood. He's decided to get out of bed and play this season, and he could be a real big driver in getting United close to the top this year, I think.
It's probably the greatest display of assists since Harry Kane in game week 2 last year. You didn't think I was going to go through this podcast and not mention him, did you?
We'll talk about him later.
Possibly. We don't need to. In the case of United, no one wants to say this. I'll say it. Solskjaer masterclass.
Yeah, but it's not the first time as well. This is the thing, right?
It's not the first time against Leeds. It wasn't the first time at Man City.
No.
We've spoken about this. He likes a blueprint. If it works, he goes and does it again.
Yeah. It's not always easy to execute, though, James.
No, because the players have got to carry out the movement off the ball. What Leeds can't do is one thing Leeds can't deal with. If their centre-backs get split and their midfield, man-to-man, gets pulled all over the place, they are in big trouble if people run off them. And that doesn't matter if it's Manchester United or Brentford. They'll be in big trouble if people run off them. You have to play at extreme intensity to do that to Leeds United. Because I didn't walk away afterwards and go, Leeds have been pumped for 5 there. Like, I didn't feel negatively about Leeds like I felt about Arsenal the night before, right? I just looked at it and went, you got hammered. You got hammered off the ball as much as anything. And then, I mean, to be fair, things like Pogba's assist for Greenwood, and then Greenwood's finished. There isn't actually a lot you can do about that.
No, you think about balls like that, and like, did he? It's a strange thing to say. Did he mean it? But he hit it into an area, and it's Greenwood's running that's kind of made it as good as it looks. But the weight of pass and the length of pass is outstanding.
Yeah, like listen, that would be one of the passes of the season. It's a brilliant assist. And then when Greenwood gets there as well, I mean, I'm still not, is he left or right-footed? I'm not sure.
I don't think anyone does. But even that, I just thought the composure to take those 2 touches, running at the pace he was running, and just slot it in bottom corner, outstanding. And this is a Manchester United team that are still missing Cavani, Martial didn't start, Rashford, Jadon Sancho as attacking options. Forget what's coming at the back in Rafa Varane.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting for them, of course.
It is.
And
ironically, I looked at the lineup, James, I have to say, and I thought, United with McTominay and Fred in the middle of the park again. Is this really?
But it's the high energy.
Yeah.
as opposed to like Matic, who's been playing in the friendlies. When you think about it afterwards, what McTominay and Fred did perfect for that game. McTominay's an all-action player, right? He didn't sit there at a Basel game. He scored twice against them early in the game in, I want to say it was December, but I'm not sure. And he was bursting on early on as well. Pogba was making runs off the ball that Paul Pogba doesn't make. And actually for Bruno does obviously like to attack the box, but actually to be able to run on and find himself in one-on-one positions, it doesn't normally happen because teams are normally setting up in a lower block against United, right? So he has to arrive later. For Bruno to get one-on-one, and by the way, this isn't to say Bruno's not going to get in those positions again, but he's running off of Robin Koch. You could spend half hour looking at it all game long. He just runs off him the whole fucking game and he couldn't deal with it. And it's easy to say, and a lot of people have been saying, well, Leeds without Calvin Phillips. When Leeds played at United at Old Trafford last year, Bielsa dragged Calvin Phillips off the pitch at half time because he was getting done over exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's full credit to Manchester United for the way they did that, particularly as obviously when Ayling scored, you thought, and I thought,
might get back in it.
Yeah, it's on here. Like Leeds might go on and nick this maybe. So Leeds have got done over defensively because of the way they play. No regrets from a fantasy perspective looking back on it, because everything we looked at Leeds was going, well, like, look at how they played at the Etihad at the back end of last season, other similar games going, they've definitely tightened up. The one that they really missed more than Phillips at the weekend was Llorente. Llorente is a good centre-back and they missed him. And that's the one that might have made a difference to them in terms of their performance, in my opinion. United, frighteningly impressive. Lots of talk of Pogba, because he is 7.5. He's obviously got the 4 assists. I would say, don't judge the Leeds game because they've got a certain tactical setup for them that works. And it wouldn't surprise me if Sancho come in the team at the weekend and Pogba was back playing next to McTominay, for example, and then he's not an asset again. So if he stays in that position, yeah, of course. If he's going to, I mean, the way he played, that's the best I've seen play for United in a long time. He was agreed. Fernandes equal in the game. You could give man a match to either of them.
And any thoughts on Leeds? I only started the season with Luke Ayling, and I've got no thoughts of coming off. I mean, we talked so much about can't go through another season with no attacking returns. It didn't take him long to get off the mark, and it was a
what a goal as well, yeah.
I mean, I think with Leeds, we've learned last season as well. Sometimes they'll take a beating, just brush it off, and move on because it has no impact on what will happen next week really for them. They could just as easily go and batter somebody next week.
Stuart Dallas assist.
Yeah, assist.
Listen, they all count. It's like Stephen Bergwijn yesterday as well. They count the same, my friend. I saw someone say someone should put together a compilation of shit assists for brilliant Heung-min Son goals. Yeah, someone can do that. We got the assist. Rafinha missed a big chance at the end, right? Which would have pleased a lot of people. And I've got Harrison. And part of the strategy of having Harrison is he's coming into the team this week. I'll play him at home to Everton. And I'll play him at Burnley in game week 3 as well. I'll probably play him against Liverpool in game week 4. So, listen, it's a bad day for Leeds in terms of, 5-1 was bloody harsh in the end. There's no question Manchester United deserved to win. Move on.
Yeah.
Move on for Leeds. It's not a crisis or anything like that.
No. Burnley-Brighton. Burnley 1, Brighton 0. I think Burnley will probably be disappointed to start the season with a defeat, especially at home,
particularly as they should have had the game won by half time.
Yeah, but it was a tale of two halves. I mean, we talk about the Tarkowski goal that shouldn't have been, but they did have a number of efforts, and even from corners and stuff that should have gone in. And credit to Brighton though for coming and turning it around in the second half and showing a little bit more of what they were made of. I think Brighton will take a lot of confidence away from a victory to start with. So many times last season, we talked about how they should have won games and didn't. And at least now they've shown that they can get over the line. And I think for Brighton, it's going to have a massive impact for their confidence to start the season with a win.
They played much better second half. The team selection from Brighton was bizarre from Graham Potter. Do you know who played left back for Brighton? Played a back forward. Do you know who played left back? Yeah. Legitimately, it's not an error. Pascal Gross played left back in a back 4, while Solly March played on the right and midfield. What is that?
It doesn't make sense.
At half time, we switched it up and Gross went and played right wing back and March went and played left wing back. It's weird. I don't know what that was. The only thing I could think is genuinely think Solly March can't play left back in the back four. But when has Pascal Gross ever been a left back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Strange one. At least March is familiar with that side. We saw Gross play right wing back quite a bit towards the end of last season, not on the left. Really strange. And I think it left them disjointed because the thing is as well, you could say, all right, they're a team that keep the ball well, play left back. What is the one thing that Burnley are not apologetic about? They'll put it over your head and into the channels. And you're asking Gross to defend that. No wonder they got so many corners and stuff early in the game, causing so many problems. But they did fix it. They did fix it and did get there in the end. The one that came out is really interesting, and please don't go and buy him because it's one that can change as well. But FPL Seagull said it, and Brad Lewin, who's a Brighton fan, one of our patrons, said it as well.
Yep.
Man of the match by a distance for Brighton was Shane Duffy.
Okay.
Out of nowhere, 4 million defender who didn't have the best spell up at Celtic last year. It was assumed that he would probably get released by Brighton this year for a minimal fee. Possibly even someone would take him on a free. The word from Brighton fans is if he can play like that, he'll stay in the team. So there's a potential impact on Webster Dunk. Veltman obviously missed the game through isolation. Shouldn't be an issue in terms of he should be back for the game in game week 2 against Watford, which on paper you think, there's potential returns there for Sanchez and the other defensive players. That would be interesting. You would think with that and the way they set up at the weekend and the way they changed the game, if Veltman's back available, they'll go back 3. March will play left wing back. Veltman will play right wing back, which is then interesting. And Duffy will play with Duncan Webster. I think that's a possibility. I would not go and buy Shane Duffy because that could easily be wrong and it's Veltman in centre back in his place. But the word from the Brighton fans is it would be really harsh having played that well that he came out of the team. But then again, Shane Duffy, triple captain. Yeah. Thing is as well, though, the thing I reflect, and I didn't see too much of this game, is again, a little bit like what I said in terms of what are Burnley unapologetic for. Well, Shane Duffy's perfect for that game, is he? Isn't he? Yeah. Is he? And I saw more of Watford, quick, fast forwards. Is he going to be suitable for that? Not so sure. Not so I wouldn't rule too much into it, but he did play very well for them. Burnley got a rough little run of fixtures. Liverpool, Leeds, Everton, Arsenal, Leicester. We've got City 2 after that as well.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, Burnley need to grind out some results in that run. Otherwise, they could find themselves going 4 or 5 games in with no points.
By the way, they will.
Yeah, I would expect them to.
But notoriously, they don't, for whatever reason, they don't seem to start seasons well, Burnley. And this looks like, I bet you it's one that we look at it in a few weeks and go, do you know what? They're banging trouble. And we'll blink and they'll be out of it.
Yeah, it happens every year.
Brighton won a game that they possibly didn't deserve to. Love it. It's a new season, everyone.
Chelsea 3, Palace 0. My big takeaways from this, I mean, Chelsea, ruthlessly efficient as always, seem to be defensively solid at the back. But I saw the Palace team and all this talk about these new signings that they've brought in and new players and stuff. The midfield and the midfield and the strikers and stuff. I just thought this is. I've seen this team before. Riedewald, MacArthur, whoever else. I just felt this is just the bog standard Palace team. Like, where's the young, fresh blood and energy that we've been talking about with Palace? Because with this team, this is the same shit they've been copy pasting for the last 2-3 years. Forget about it. And it didn't feel like it was the new Palace, let's say, with the new manager. It felt like they just trotted out some of the old players that are in and around the squad. And I understand it's because integration of new players, injuries to some of the young kids and stuff. And I was completely not surprised with how this ended up.
No, I think that's fair comment in terms of the team looking the same, but the number of things to say, and I go from back to front on it. Mig predicted, our Palace correspondent, predicted that Anderson wouldn't start because of fitness concerns. and he didn't. So that's one straight to come back in with Gehi. I always thought it was Mark Gay, but apparently it's Gehi. Which is not easier to say. So that'll be better immediately from game week 2 because Anderson will come back in against Brentford. Conor Gallagher, they've obviously got on loan against from Chelsea, so was obviously ineligible, can't play. Michael Olise could be back for game week 4. Mateta played up front because Benteke also having gone to the... Was he in the Belgium squad? I don't remember seeing him, but he's short on fitness.
Mateta, I think he was,
No, Benteke was in the Belgium squad.
Benteke 100% was.
Was he?
Yeah. 100% Benteke was.
No wonder Lukaku played every minute.
Tournaments to be Lukaku's. He's like a crap Lukaku, isn't
he? Well, yeah, that's pretty fair actually. So look, Benteke will come back in that team as well, and they might make new signings still to come as well. So I understand what you're saying. Milivojevic was missing as well, and I know that would have looked the same as well. He's had some personal issues the last week or so. Wish him well. So I get what you're saying in terms of it looking the same, but there's a lot of players actually to come back into that team. They lost limply. Zaha had one real breakaway moment and he was indecisive and took too long on a shot, and Rudiger got a block in. Other than that, they couldn't get near Chelsea particularly, which is full credit to Chelsea. After the 120 minutes in Belfast against Villarreal last Wednesday, several players missing. Had a little bit of concern when I saw Kante wasn't in the team but nah, too much quality and missing half the team basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing where you've got no Lukaku, Havertz didn't play, Chilwell didn't play. I mean, there's no even point starting, but so many Kante didn't play. So many players that are what you'd consider the first choice that weren't there for Chelsea. They've got some depth now. They've got some real depth. I think with Chelsea, it's just a watching brief for a couple more weeks until we get to 5 or 6, and at least we'll try and hope and pray that they have a settled team so we know where to go to in terms of assets.
I guess if Salah got injured this week, would you buy Fernandes? Just say it would come out on Thursday. Salah's out. Would you buy Fernandes?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, no, I would.
Yeah.
Would you consider mass downgrading though to the kind of Ben Rama area and actually just going straight to Lukaku?
Saving the money.
And just going straight to Lukaku. Would you consider that?
Probably. I'd think about it. I probably wouldn't do it, but I'd think about it strongly. I'd rather do it in game week 4 or 5, something like that, bit further down, just before Chelsea's big run.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's a real look again during the international break before game week 4, and there isn't an FPL team that's going to be around that's serious that hasn't got a Chelsea player in game week 7 for that brilliant run they've got coming up.
Yeah,
Palace, daunting fixture list, as we said. Big game against Brentford coming up this weekend. They'll probably need to get something.
Yeah, well, let's see where they go. Everton 3, Southampton 1. Let's talk about this game. I didn't catch all of it. You probably caught bits and pieces of it. I was surprised to see Richarlison straight back in, but to be honest, he's been training, right? So he's been playing matches as well. So,
to be honest, right now he's probably the fittest player in the league. So it shouldn't actually surprise. He's one of 3 players that has already had a price rise. Pogba, Fernandes also went up last night. He will come back and buy it. He has to. There's no way he's going to play 38 games at the way he did at the weekend. And he was very good for Richarlison. Very good. You know what they were? They were also unapologetic in terms of crossing the ball. And this is something
just whipped it in
all something game. That Everton fans have spoken a lot about in terms of like the signing of trying to explain away Brian Andros Townsend. Is the idea of get the ball into the box for Calvert-Lewin. They got Richarlison closer to Calvert-Lewin's second half, which was much better for them. And by the end, they deserve to win the game. They've got 2 tricky looking away games coming up in Leeds at Brighton, which are both winnable, but both very easily losable. I'll be having, I can't see me going from now. I mean, I'm obviously pleased I didn't go Luka Dean off and missing the clean sheet that didn't come because of Michael Keane's absolute brain fart. I think probably Mina and Godfrey are probably their 2 best centre-backs, seems to be the message I'm getting from Evertonians. And it'll be better as and when that's the pairing again. But I feel like this is more a story of Southampton, isn't it? Got Match joining us again on the podcast on Thursday, so we can speak to him more about Adam Armstrong and stuff. And he is interesting at 6 million, but they've also got shitty fixtures. And we highlighted pre-season how many goals they conceded second half of last season. Another 3 gone in their net in the second half of this game. And that's why for everybody who's going to me, yeah, you're going to miss Bruno's hat-trick this coming week as well. I might. I actually think Bruno is a much better captaincy option this coming week than he was last week.
Yeah. What we're saying
I'm worried for Southampton. Because obviously with Vestergaard's now gone to Leicester, they have to do something with that defence. Have to. Otherwise, they'll need Armstrong and Adams to get them 30 goals to keep them up, I think.
Yeah, and Armstrong did look lively. He obviously had the other shot with his left foot that he took so well as well that got saved. But I thought Armstrong looked like high energy, lively. Obviously making his debut.
He is rapid,
he's a good player. Considering I think 15 million was a bargain for him, to be honest with you, with the number of goals he scored.
I think it's a really good move by Southampton. I mean, it's the right move for Armstrong as well. Again, there's people.
I think he could have played for a more established Premier League club, because say they get relegated.
I think it's good for him in terms of the way they play. That is still offensive and stuff. And actually having a partner with him means that he won't get isolated. He's a little fella, right? He needs balls in behind. Adams is probably going to do more dropping off now, like kind of what Danny Ings did last year. And Armstrong's the one who's going to be at the point. I would bet that Armstrong will outscore Adams this season, would be my opinion. I think he's a good signing for them. They're going to have to score goals, though. They have to do something to transfer market in the next 2 weeks. I'm more worried about them than anyone. Me too. That defence now, with Bertrand gone, Vestergaard gone, I don't think that they've got 2 goalkeepers. I don't think either of them are any good. They have to do something with that back line. Livramento played at right back, which is interesting. We get Matt's thought on Thursday in terms of why that was. Because, I mean, Carl Walker-Peters was a sub. Is there something down to fitness? Well, I'll ask Matt's opinion on that. He's obviously very interesting if he plays. He's very offensive as well. They've got to fix that back line, though. They have to do some business in the next couple of weeks.
Leicester 1, Wolves 0.
This was a bit fortunate for Leicester.
For Leicester, yeah.
I mean, Traore had an unbelievable chance minutes before Vardy's brilliant goal. And all the chances fell to Traore. I think he had six shots in the game, Serge. Yeah. And he was a threat. And people will look at that on the data and go, oh my God, Adama Traore, well, you can wait a bit longer. It's Tottenham and Manchester United next, which doesn't feel like I need to go and spend my midfield money on Adama Traore at the moment. But certainly a threat playing in that position. It's a shame none of the chances fell to Jimenez, because I think Wolves might have got something out of the game.
Scored, yeah.
Leicester were hanging on. They were hanging on. They changed to a back 3 during the game. And I think that's worth mentioning sort of half hour ago. That came about so they could put Vestergaard on because they were struggling. They had to stop the spaces in between the centre-backs and the full-backs.
From what I can see and understand, Amati just didn't have his best game.
He's not great.
No.
He's not great.
I don't feel like you want to criticise him, but he wasn't good.
Barnes obviously briefly played right up front with Vardy, and then obviously Iheanacho came on for him, which is no surprise. I think any of us have bought Harvey Barnes weren't particularly expecting 90 minutes from him in any case, with how much he's been missing pre-season. But it has got some people concerned for the games coming up. I think there's a possibility they might play a back 3 at West Ham, but I think if they did, I think Barnes would still stay up front at the moment, interestingly. Because I think they like that, where he can get into pockets and run at people and they'll miss that. I think if they went that way, there's a chance possibly that Maddison might not even play. I guess Perez would be the one that would probably get dropped if that's the way they go. You're back, Serge. You disappeared on us for a little bit. So I just kept rabbiting.
So, I can see you still talking. No, all good.
I was rabbiting on about Harvey Barnes.
What should we do?
Well, what I was saying is I think there's a chance that he'll play up front actually against you if they go and change the system, which I'm not convinced that they will do. Bertrand missed the game through isolation. I guess he'll probably be back for the game against yourselves. But I think if they did change and go with a back 3, I think Barnes will start. rather than Iheanacho, which might sound mad, but generally that's what I think they would do. So I have no concerns on Harvey Barnes at the moment. And even still, you can look at the game coming up and go, well, he won't get space against West Ham. He will find that difficult, no doubt about it. It's Norwich afterwards as well. And I saw the way they defended at the weekend. So Leicester not at their best, but good win for them, particularly when they had some really disappointing results in home games last year as well. Squad depth's getting better for them, but just a bit short defensively till they get Evans back, I think.
And Jamie Vardy back on the score sheet.
Brilliant goal.
Just can't keep him down. And what do you make of his goal celebrations? Where
I quite liked it, to be honest.
Yeah, he's on the edge. He's never like that bad that he's antagonizing in your face, like does anything crazy.
To be fair, he gets loads of stick, doesn't he? Yeah. Particularly his missus doesn't help, right? He gets loads of grief, and he's happy to give it back. So yeah, he gets stick from everyone. I think didn't he do the Eagles flap at Palace last year as well?
Palace, yeah.
And he was giving the wolf howl right in front of the Wolves fans. I thought that was quite good. Yeah. I actually prefer that to the kind of stand there and fingers to your ears stuff. It's
a bit of thoughts gone into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, what's he gonna do like if he scores against Watford or Brentford? What does he do? What does he do?
Can you imagine Jamie Vardy buzzing around the pitch, like flapping his wings? Oh, mate. Let's talk about Hornets instead of buzzing bees, shall we? Because I was super impressed with what I saw from Watford.
They were really good, particularly in the first half.
Star as well. I thought, wow, okay, yeah, he's got it. He's direct. He is an attacking midfielder, like, in the sense that he's not box to box. Really, he's just got one thought on his mind: getting forward. And even Emmanuel Dennis, albeit he took his goal. Like they've got a lot of forwards on the books there at Watford. So we didn't know who was going to start.
I didn't think it would be him. In fairness,
no, his goal. Okay, yeah, the concert deflection or lack of block made it easy for him to have a second bite of the cherry. But I thought he was decent. He's possibly a decent option as the striker when you've got wide players that are putting crosses in. Don't know if he'll stay in the team, but
don't do that.
No,
because he might miss game week 2. He went off with an injury, so they'll need to get that assessed and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. Basically, I'm impressed with Watford. The only player I would go to is Sarr.
Well, what impressed me was the energy in the front three. Dennis worked so hard defensively. And I think if I think back to Watford in the Premier League 2 years ago, with kind of Deeney being that battering ram through the middle, Dennis, I think, might be good for Sarr. Something to keep an eye on, because he'll go and stretch defenses as well. He's happy to go beyond. He's also happy to drop short. He works really hard defensively. So he keeps people on their toes. Now, listen, he wouldn't be the first player. And I'm sure there's someone this weekend who did really well because it was their debut and we won't ever fucking speak about him again properly. And it might be that it's that. The occasion swept him. He's got caught up in it. He's worked really hard.
I saw a great tweet about Willian went big game week 1 last season. How did that end? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you have to be careful what happens, 100%.
But if he's going to play regularly, he's 5.5 million starting forward, right? Which
and if Watford are going to play like that regularly, it makes it even more attractive. I mean,
are they going to play against teams who defend like Villa? Is maybe more the point.
What happened with Villa? It just sometimes you get too many new players in a squad. It takes a bit of time to integrate. The back five, including the goalkeeper, is the same back five that played the majority of last season.
And McGinn and Nakamba finished the season in front of them as well.
Exactly. So is it just a slow start to the season? Just new players from the squad needing integrating, a bit of chopping and changing? I think
during the first half of last season, in my opinion, they were the best at transition in the league in the first half of last season in terms of how quickly they moved between the lines when they got the ball back. And the main reason for that is get it to fucking Grealish and you're off and going, right? So it's a bit different. Suddenly you've got Young and El Ghazi in the wide areas. We're looking at something that's different here, right? And Buendia, I thought, was quite lightweight during the game. And there might be he was carrying a bit of an injury, might not be 100% fitness. I'm looking at him thinking, you're lightweight, mate. That was the thing that I took away from it. Now, it doesn't mean, as I said, he might have an injury or something. He might be carrying issues. But suddenly he's got to be the creative player. And you could do with another one around him. They were a bit better, obviously, when Bailey came on. Because he's a top talent, Leon Bailey. But it's all going to go through Buendia now, isn't it? And it's up to him to step up, I think, really, and fill those Grealish shoes. If they get it into the front, guys, obviously Ollie Watkins was missing. To get it into the front, guys, they'll score goals.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. The system was basically 4-2-3-1. They probably are not going to play that if Watkins is fit. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Buendia. Is he going to end up in a wide position, which you might think, but he might actually find it a little bit easier to find some space if he's coming in off, say, the left-hand side, for example. I think that's the best solution for them. Get him to come in off the left in the same way Grealish would have. Get Bailey hold the touchline on the other end, and Buendia can come and find the space. I think he needs to face the game. There's a lot of balls came into him at the weekend where he's back to goal and stuff. And as I said, I thought it was quite lightweight in the game. Good from Watford. Really good opening day win. Deserved to win. Sada standout, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. I was very impressed.
And they've got players to come back into that as well. So there's no Feminina. Ciaralta was a sub. I don't know if that's lack of fitness coming back from the Copa America. They'll probably be stronger defensively when he comes back in as well. That midfield three of Atebo, Cleverley and Cooker will probably be the midfield three. They're not going to get many attacking returns between them. So it's going to come from mainly Sarr, whoever plays up front. Sema will get the odd one if he's going to be first choice, but the clamour will continue from Watford fans for Cucho to play after his goal.
Oh, fantastic finish.
Brilliant goal. It was basically his first touch.
Yeah, took it to the side. Yeah, curler. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes on them closely. Let's talk about Norwich 0, Liverpool 3. Comfortable for Liverpool. Well, I say comfortable over the course of the game. 2 occasions where they had to get Alisson to get him out of jail because Norwich could easily have scored a couple of goals in this game. But they were 2 chances. Other than that, comfortable for Liverpool. Could have scored more.
The good news for Norwich is going into game week 2. I don't suppose Manchester City will be vexed in any way going into that match.
Yeah.
No, it was routine once they'd got the first goal, Liverpool. They had some lively moments, Norwich. I like the fact that Pookie was trying to test Van Dijk in the channel. And
getting in behind Van Dijk. It looked a bit of a problem. I felt like it's just
I thought he was all right. He was all right. Yeah. But it was a concern we'd had, didn't we? That when they're going to try and pull him out into fullback area. Not necessarily Norwich, but just teams generally. I thought Van Dijk coped a bit fine.
In his press interview after the game, he was talking about falling back in love with his knee, which I think is just about like trusting it again. You know, that he can twist on it and turn it and what have you. And it's going to take him a little bit of time, but I thought he did fine. I didn't expect him to start, to be honest with you.
No, but it kind of became apparent probably from about Thursday night onwards that it was looking more and more likely that he would actually. Wish he was in that Sky team, but anyway, he will be for game week 4. I felt midfield Liverpool were really lacking. It just didn't feel right with Keita, Milner, and who else played in there? Chamberlain. Was just Thiago Henderson and
that's a full second choice midfield.
Yeah, and I think that it's understandable it didn't feel right. When they got the ball into the front three, though, brilliant.
Electric.
Yeah.
So good.
Salah was great.
Jota coming off on 60 for Firmino.
He just made it, Jota. You wouldn't have known actually watched match day highlights, didn't you?
Yeah, but I saw your tweet afterwards.
Well, the board went up and it was like 59-45, and he really took a slow walk, mate. He just about made it, which was worth obviously a good 2 points to owners or so. I've often spoken about Salah being frustrating when I own him. I'm not actually a fan of having him in my FPL team. Does my head in sometimes. I think he goes down blind alleys sometimes. He doesn't need to. I didn't feel that way about him at the weekend, actually. I thought he's going to get more here. Even at the end when it was 3-0, we think they're going to send him away any minute. There's more in it for him. A lot of that naivety of Norwich. To be honest, the way the second goal ends up, where they all end up going to Mane and it breaks to Salah and Firmino's free, you accept that happening in the last 5 minutes or so. It can't happen with half hour to go against Liverpool, that you leave yourself in that position. And I think Norwich will get done over badly on counter-attacks this season. It was my biggest takeaway from the game. Now, in fairness, as Mark Hammond, FPL Badger, spoke to us on Correspondent Week, and we said to him, will you play at Man City like you would have played a couple of years ago? And he said, no, we'll go in a lot more defensively solid. And I think there's a case for that. They'll play some good stuff. They weren't horrible to watch or anything, particularly when you got the likes of Gilmore in midfield. Max Aarons looked like really bulked up. I need a backup right back for Japhet Tanganga now, Serge. So I'd like another look at Max Aarons. It really looked like he bulked up. I didn't mind Janulis at left back. I think they're better than 2 years ago. They are more solid, despite the fact I think they'll get done on the counter attack. We shouldn't overjudge them on Liverpool. They've just got to get through these first 3 or 4 games, come out the other side, and then have their fitness at a good level to really start their season, unfortunately.
Yeah, agreed.
Salah captain for you this weekend?
Yes.
If you had Bruno Fernandes, would you still captain Mo Salah?
No.
No, you go Bruno.
Southampton, isn't it? For Bruno.
Yeah. Salah's got Burnley.
Shite, nah, Burnley, you can see, I trust Burnley to be like, you know what, we just lost. We need to keep it tight. I don't mind if we don't win, but we draw at least. Southampton don't have the players to be able to do that, mate. That's the problem with Southampton. So if I owned Bruno, I'd probably captain Bruno looking at what I've seen this weekend.
If anybody's got that preference.
I trust Burnley to flip.
I know what you're saying.
Able to turn it around. I don't trust Southampton to turn it around.
And I know what you're saying. It's interesting because, kind of as I said, although they're weak, Southampton, Bruno's not going to get it's very unlikely to get in the one-on-one positions against Southampton as he did against Leeds. And the other thing is, do you ever really want to overlook Salah's notorious home record against bottom half sides, which is phenomenal, and it's the sort of games he can go off in. And he looked so confident at the weekend as well.
Yeah, fresh. Is that a fresh summer, right? No football, no international tournaments, nothing.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a big benefiting factor for Sadio Mane as well during the season. I feel a bit sorry for those who went Mane over Salah, because brave call, and Mane in pre-season was probably, I know his numbers were better than Salah and stuff, but it's kind of what we said. It just wasn't worth the gamble. Yeah, you were a hero if you got it right, but I just don't think it was worth going against with the ownership and stuff, personally. No doubt there will be games where Mane outscores Salah. It's just one game to judge it on. I would still go Salah, personally, at the weekend. Home fixture at Anfield, full crowd. Burnley, notoriously starting the season slowly, got opened up a couple of times by Brighton in the second half. I'll be going with Salah at the weekend as long as he's fit with the armband. And Schmidt will stay in the team, I think.
Yeah, for now.
At the moment, until Robertson's back.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about the Sunday game, shall we?
Well, I didn't really watch it, Suj. I've seen the highlights last night, so I'll leave it to you, mate.
Well,
sounds like it was fun.
Yeah, I think the first half felt like it was the teams warming up. I think actually, West Ham warming up. We didn't start the game particularly well. I was surprised to see Agbona back in the team. I thought coming back from injury, they might have given him a week and maybe given him 20 minutes, half an hour, but he came straight back in the team. And I think that was probably part of the reason defensively we were a little bit suspect in the first half. But I would say give credit to St. Maximin. I mean, when he gets the ball, he is so direct. He's got a trick and he's got a bit of end product on the end of it. He turned Declan Rice into couscous or something, mate. The way he turned him in and out at the start. It was a biryani on. It wasn't a basmati bond, to tell you, but St. Maximin was the driving force behind pretty much most, if not all, of Newcastle's threat.
He's electric when he's like that.
Yeah. And you could see that Newcastle, they always carry a threat with him and Wilson. I think West Ham defended particularly lazily, is the way I would describe it. And Aaron Creswell can be suspect, especially in and around the box. He's not too bad out wide defending, but his defensive attributes are not his best qualities as a footballer. And we didn't really start the first half particularly well at all. And Newcastle were on it when they played on the front foot. Yet when we broke on them, you could still tell that attacking threat that we carried was there. I just thought, okay, half time. I felt going in 2-1 down at half time, we're probably going to win this game because I trust Moyes to get into the squad at half time, give them the rocket up the arse that they need, and we'll increase our intensity, which is exactly what we needed to do. If we just went from first gear to second or third gear, we'd be able to beat them quite comfortably. And that's what happened in the second half. The amount of times we broke on them, and the way we attacked as threes and fours swarming at their back line, and the diagonal balls in behind their fullbacks for Bowen or whoever else on the opposite side worked a treat every single time. Even Antonio, the diagonal ball in behind Newcastle caused them problems every single time we played it. They couldn't deal with it. And penalty was...
It's not a penalty, mate.
Not a penalty. This is good, not a penalty.
It's not.
He dived in. It's the way he dived in that made it look bad, but it wasn't a penalty. But penalty or not, we would have...
I thought that to be honest, I was watching the highlights, and it was the first time I'd seen the incident, and I knew that Antonio had missed a penalty and stuff. And even when I saw it, I was like, that's not the penalty incident.
Yeah.
Like even Fornals' reaction, Fornals weren't appealing or anything.
Nah.
You have to be a little bit careful here. I think we really liked the refereeing over the weekend on a whole in terms of how much they were letting the game go. VAR didn't feel like it was really involved at all. Nice. If there's a wrong decision, correct the decision. And I think Tarkowski's goal probably shouldn't have stood. That was definitely not a penalty, mate.
No. That aside, I think we would have still comfortably won the game.
Yeah,
Benrahma with a collector's piece headed goal.
And what a cross that was from Antonio with his left peg.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's done that a number of times. When he's... it sounds disrespectful. When he just has to hit it, when he just doesn't have to think too much, he hasn't got time, and he's playing like that. Yeah, he'll do well. But he was a threat all game. Looked fit, looked hungry.
The older Planet FPL listeners wrote me, you were going to say, look tired, mate.
Nah, not yet. But Antonio's looking live. I was very impressed with what I saw in the second half going forward. Still work to do defensively. Still need to tidy it up. But it was the clinical nature of the passing, finding players in channels and stuff was very good from West Ham. Newcastle just seemed to tire and be less involved the longer the game went on. So I don't know if there was necessarily a fitness issue here, but the longer it went on, the less I felt any sort of threat from Newcastle at all.
Do you think they'll be in trouble, Newcastle?
I don't, actually.
No, neither do I.
No. I don't. I think they'll be okay, but I think they were beaten by a better team in the end on the day. Yeah. And Benrahma is an interesting one because the rumours restarted on Thursday or Friday about Jesse Lingard potentially the deal being back on. And if Lingard coming stunts Benrahma's growth in the team, I'd be concerned because he's got that central position now. He played well. He did a lot of the things that Lingard does in driving at the defence and carrying the ball. If Lingard joining when Benrahma didn't play anymore, I'd be very disappointed. I could understand it, but I'd be disappointed because you don't want to see the progression and development of him now put back on a back foot.
You ain't going to be disappointed if you buy him.
Lingard?
No,
I won't, but I will be disappointed about the fact that Benrahma's development.
We spoke about this idea that it had taken him a long time to break into the team. We spoke about it with Chris Stone on Correspondent Week. Could he be the one that kind of took I need to be, not in an FPL sense, but the talisman of this team? You know, I'm going to run the game. I'm going to carry this team forward and create the chances and have long range shots, etc. Carry the ball, take responsibility for it. And we spoke in his early return shouldn't surprise us, because we spoke about him probably being the kind of breakout second season player to really keep an eye on. And I guess if there was a regret from game week 1 for me, it wouldn't have been not having Bruno Fernandes. It might have been not taking a punt on him, because there was one stage early in the week where he was sitting there. I'm aware everybody's got these stories, but I guess if there was a regret one, which I don't have, it would be him. I think there'll be a point in the season where people are looking for money up front, and it will make Benrahma more popular than Antonio if Lingard's not signed, because you'd look at yesterday and think would have matched each other basically. And I can make 1.5 million saving by going Benrahma rather than Antonio. So those little things are interesting. So it might be a case that further down the line, it actually becomes Benrahma versus Antonio. Who do you want as a West Ham asset? Well, I'm glad that I've got at least one of them going into these next 3 fixtures because I think they're good fixtures. Leicester are not quite right defensively. Palace and Southampton afterwards are good fixtures, mate.
Oh, yeah. If we now on less than 10 points after 4 games, I'd be disappointed. I'd be happy with 7, I guess, but I think we should be looking to get another 7 points in the next 3. Really attack these fixtures at the start of the season. So, yeah, wouldn't put anyone off. But defensively, you don't need to worry about.
Would you have
about Spurs
for that? Just before we do, for those who want to buy Ben Rahm, and it will be some, would you have any concerns about it because of the Lingard reports and stuff?
Even if we signed Lingard, I mean, Lingard got COVID last week, didn't he? So he was isolating. So by the time he comes out of that, makes a transfer, maybe you've got a couple of good fixtures. I think Lingard, wait and see. Eventually, it would concern me. But if you're happy to keep Ben Rahm for 2 or 3 weeks, then fine. And I think in games where we don't need the defensive work of Fornals, I could see Ben Rahm off to the left, Lingard in the middle, Bowen to the right. I would still go with Ben Rahm if you want to. You're still going to score points in the next
I think
games.
West Ham are looking to do business in the transfer market. It's not a concern for now, but it is after game week 4. Because if you go into the Europa League with the size of your squad at the moment, you're possibly going to need to sack that off, mate. Yeah. Or your Premier League results are going to suffer badly. So I think what West Ham be looking for, rather than adding the quality necessary, because I think we look at you now and go, you're a good side, mate. Depth. You have to get more depth into that squad. You have to get someone who can play like for Antonio and stuff in Europe and that, so he can play at the weekend. You don't need to go full strength. I know it's a big deal for West Ham to be in Europa. You do not need to go full strength in the group stage of that competition. You need bigger depth in the squad. It's a big deal for West Ham in the next couple of weeks. In terms of assets, there shouldn't be any danger, I think, till after game week 4. And it's a good run. Yeah, agreed. Thoughts on Spurs 1, City 0. Tell us about it from a Spurs fan's point of view, but obviously I know you're fair and balanced in your critique of the game. Nah, fuck it. I'm over the moon, mate. Oh, you should be. I'm so pleased. I'm pleased. We'll talk about it more on the Patreon pod tomorrow. I don't want to do it all now because most people don't give a shit. But yeah, the energy, the enthusiasm, the commitment, the atmosphere, brilliant. It's worth saying City could have had the game won inside the first 10 minutes. Lloris flapped at one and Fernandinho should have scored a header. Mahrez's miss, which was that was quite later in the game, actually, but they did have chances, particularly in the first half. And on another day, they put them away and they win the game and no one says anything. What I think was most interesting from the game, from an FPL perspective for Spurs, is, of course, Sonny. And what I loved most about Tottenham's performance was the bravery. And sometimes you can be brave without the ball. And I've watched Tottenham teams for the last 2 years funnel into 4-5-1s, 6-3-0s, all sorts of defensive sit behind the ball combinations. Lucas, Son, and Bergwijn stayed up front as a front three all through the game. And it gave Manchester City so many headaches on the counter-attack. And I was thinking back to, is this a Nuno thing? Because Wolves have obviously had a really good record against City in the past. 2 years ago, Wolves beat them home and away. Admittedly, Ederson was sent off in the game at Molineux. But actually, when I remembered watching Wolves at the Etihad in, I want to say January maybe, and they lost 4-1. Connor Cody scored, and they hadn't done anything in the game up until that point. And that was so negative and awful from Wolves. So I think at the moment, this Tottenham team's quite energized by Nuno's tactics. There is a clear strategy to leave 3 players up at all time, and they go and attack. How many times we look back on the past and go, how did Jota and Jimenez, particularly the first season, how did Jota and Jimenez score there when they were the only 2 players forward? You'd have like the midfielders are miles behind and stuff. And that front 3 are going to stay high and they're going to be all the threat for Tottenham. Don't buy Bergwijn. Lucas Moura is not an asset, doesn't get returns, but I still believe that he'd be a better asset than Dele Alli if you're interested in buying Tottenham players. Defensively, everyone, which Tottenham defender? The answer is still none, because how you play against...
you just...
I've just answered half the Twitter questions, have I?
The Twitter questions,
Good.
yes, correctly.
Thank fucks for that.
They're either which Tottenham defender or should I buy Tanganga?
The way teams play against Manchester City tells you nothing about what's coming next.
Correct.
Absolutely nothing.
Correct.
And it's worth saying, the back four and the midfield three in front yesterday, their work ethic and their discipline, even the likes of Davinson Sanchez, excellent. Japhet Tanganga at right back, outstanding. It was phenomenal for me. But you must be aware that Tottenham are trying to buy a right back. That is a certainty. Tottenham will almost definitely buy a right back. Now, it might be someone that's going to end up being backup for Tanganga. But don't go buying a 4.5 million defender in game week 2. You must have something better you want to do with your team, unless it's absolutely crippled in that area. At the moment, there's every chance Sanchez and Dyer will play again against Wolves. We know that Romero is going to come into the team at some point. And I would guess, as it stands, Dyer would be his most likely partner. Please don't go there. Tottenham may also buy another centre-back, especially if they get a lot of money for a certain centre-forward who didn't play. So the answer is, honestly, don't go there. We'll come back and bite you. With the 4.5 Spurs defender, after time, you're going to leave it on the bench anyway.
Yeah.
Don't bother. Honestly, wait. It might be a wild card one. For those wild carding like game week 7, if you've got clarity by that point, great. But no one else is rushing to buy the 4.5 million Tottenham defenders. My honest advice is please don't do that. Just get Sonny in your team and enjoy it.
And City, can we read anything into this team, or do we just have to wait till they're all fully fit?
That's the other thing. One of our patrons, forgive me, I can't remember who said it. He said he got a message from a mate of his who was a City fan, who said City are playing for false 9 and also playing for false 6 and a false 22 because Nathan Ake and Benjamin Mendy are not Manchester City quality. Nathan Ake, right. No, that's not a Manchester City player. And Mendy, you know he's going to give you a chance. You can't help it. I met Johnny Pringle before the game.
Yeah, I saw.
The City team, there was a leaked City team that came out, wasn't the same as the team that come out. The team that we'd heard just before the lineups were confirmed had like John Stones in it, Walker and Cancelo, and Dan FPL Chance was with us as well. And I was like, fuck that, we're getting murdered. And then because that happened, and then we heard Mendy and Ake was in the team, suddenly there was a little bit of confidence and enthusiasm.
Was like,
well, do you know what? If we can get it into the right-hand channel at the right times, we might have some joy. Oh, where did the goal come from? The goal came from the front three all breaking together on their own. Yeah, City, I don't read too much into that because you've got Stones, Walker to come back into that. It'll be better. De Bruyne, obviously, to come back into it. Who else is missing that they've got? Brilliant players.
Would you play Jesus as a striker?
Well, it was interesting when they brought Jesus on. Originally, Jesus stayed on the left and Ferran Torres stayed up front. I mean, to be honest with you, the only two that were concerned during the game was Mahrez, Grealish. I felt Grealish was on Sterling's toes too much during the game. And Tanganga dealt with both of them so well. Considering that's the thing that can happen with City. That's why I was so impressed with, say, Lucas Moura's position particularly was, no, I'm going to trust them to deal with it. We'll funnel Højbjerg out from the right-hand central area to go out there and help him. We'll trust him to make sure we can counter and spring on them. Because it's so easy, and this will happen to a lot of teams who play City this year, with Grealish and whomever, be it Sterling or another Foden who plays on the left. Whoever plays right side of midfield is going to get absolutely drawn into fullback areas. And then they've got you pinned. So unlike, say, with Tottenham yesterday, when Tottenham got out, they were a counter-attacking threat all through the game. If City pin you in, you can get a tackle or an interception in. You ain't getting out. It's just coming back. And that was the most impressive thing for me yesterday with Tottenham, was that we were brave off the ball. City have obviously got Norwich at home this weekend. Mahrez is probably the one that if you've got, you don't. I've seen people say, I want to go Mahrez to Son. Don't do that. Please keep Riyad Mahrez this week. I won't be going there. It's not of interest to me.
It's strange. It's even the teams that didn't perform particularly well, other than Arsenal, depending on how you load up with Arsenal, you don't feel like you need to come off. City didn't play particularly well. You don't need to come off. Leeds got battered. You don't need to come off just yet. You're fine to just sit and hold. And that's how I feel about City.
Yeah, listen, this goes for all 20 teams. You shouldn't overly judge what you've seen in one game week. A lot of it can be down to fitness at this stage. Who's the fitter team? And I think there was an element of that in the Tottenham City game. City's preparation has not been great, has it? I mean, look at the team that played against Leicester last week.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really good time for Tottenham to play them, even though, yes, Tottenham had a few players missing as well. It definitely benefited us that City were not at their strongest and I think not at their fittest. And Tottenham played with real intensity in the game. Now, that's not necessarily going to be a problem against Norwich or against Arsenal in the week after. So if you've got Mahrez, listen, you didn't buy Mahrez for the massive haul, which it was possible of doing at Tottenham. It was for Norwich, right? Don't move off. At the same time, I'm not breaking my team to do anything with it, and I never had any plan to do so because I don't like what comes afterwards. For yes, 2 looks brilliant. Yes, 5 looks brilliant, but I don't like the rest of it. And I could gamble on someone because of those 2 home games and they might not even fucking play. I'm not having it personally.
Cool. That's your wrap up of the games. So let's do a couple of things. We will answer a few of the Twitter questions, James. I've had a rundown of all of the quick Twitter questions. Put a line through every single one that said Spurs defender.
Is there really loads of questions, Spurs defenders?
Loads. I know I can't know from our listeners nowadays which ones are being sarcastic bastards and which ones are genuinely asking questions.
There could be a lot of sarcastic ones.
There's a few cheeky Deli Alley ones and stuff like that. I'm just parking those. But there are a few that are worth talking about. But before we do you want to give everyone a rundown briefly of what they have to look forward to the rest of this week?
Yeah. So if you head on Twitter and probably see my previous tweet after this one, if you've picked up the podcast via a tweet, you will see a people's poll vote for tomorrow's podcast. There are 3 options for you. It's an FPL related podcast. We are going to look at 3 price areas and you can choose which one. We're either going to look at defenders between 4 and 4.5, midfielders between 5 and 5.5, or forwards between 6 and 6.5. And part of the thinking behind that is some forward thinking, because eventually in this game, it feels like everyone's going to have to try and find some money from somewhere. So we realize these aren't necessarily the most desirable players this coming week, but it's something to think about for what's coming. You know, if you need to suddenly find Lukaku and Kane money and stuff, these players need considering. So yes, it's only one game week, but I think we've got some information on a lot of players now. So that votes up. It'll be up to early evening. Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football. Thursday, Clash of Correspondence is Southampton versus Manchester United with Clean Sheet Wipeout is my cap playing. I'll be streaming on Friday. Plan is 3:00 UK time with Ask James. Deadline stream 10 a.m. Saturday. Patreon podcasts are Q&A today. Tottenham tomorrow, including what it was like being back at a full capacity football stadium. Wednesday, Suj, we are going to do an investigation, which many of our patrons have asked for, on these Socio fan tokens.
Socios, yes.
Socios fan tokens. Some dodgy business going on. Thursday, we've got a quiz on Premier League number 10s. Friday, we will have our game week 2 preview.
Sounds good. And if you want to catch all of our Patreon content, you can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL. In addition to the extra podcast every single day that you get from James and I, you also get access to our Slack channel. It's very active with coming up to 500 managers in there, fans of all the different clubs in various leagues that will be happy to interact with you. Lots of little side competitions, draft leagues, that kind of stuff, Gaffer, Scottish fantasy, all that's going on as well. And we have a bunch of prize leagues where you can win money for different bits of FPL. So head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL and you'll be able to get a feel for our Patreon. We'd love to have you on board supporting the show. Now, James, a few Twitter questions. You ready for it? So I know you said that you're going to talk about this on the Patreon show tomorrow. But the second most asked about topic after Tottenham defenders is probably summed up quite well by Chris Stone, our West Ham correspondent, who says, how much and how long will the fans being back in the ground have an impact on players and teams before it balances out again? And does it significantly favour home teams more or not? There are a number of questions, James, where people are asking about the impact of fans being back in the ground and what impact it will have moving forward and how you felt. So, yeah, without going into the...
it's huge.
Can I chuck in a second part of the question? Ollie says, James, what's your opinion on the "Are you watching Harry Kane" chance? Would really love to hear your take on it. I didn't see or hear that. Was there a lot of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, clear and visible. Was I joining in? No. Do I think it was good? No, because at the end of the day, he could still be our player in a couple of weeks. But I think it was
funny,
kind of... No, to be honest, I know what it was sung, and it depends how you read on it, right? And people would have been singing it for different reasons. Some would have been singing it as do you know what? If you don't want to be here, go. But I think it was also because normally the song is "Are you watching Arsenal?" Right? When obviously you're playing well or something. But it's also kind of thing like, "Are you watching? Why do you want to go there? We're beating them." And no one thinks that they're not better than us. We know that. But I think it was a little bit of that as well. Like, you don't need to go watch the game. So it depends how you interpret it. So I didn't read too much into that. People will read it however they want. What was the first part of the question? I've forgotten now.
Well, just fans being back in stadiums, mate.
It's going to have a massive impact.
But for how long? Like, do you think it would eventually become normal again after?
I think anyway, teams' first home games, and particularly game week 1, because obviously you get a lot of obviously away fans are going as well. So a lot of the hardcore already away fans, right? So they get it out their system, that first kind of buzz game. But for those who are home in game week 1, it's the first time you've been able to support your team for 3 months. So it doesn't matter if you're playing Man City. Obviously, the atmosphere was more intense at Tottenham than if we were playing Brentford, for example, of course, because the team need your backing more. But you're always going to get a little bit more noise game week 1 because no one's made any for 3 months. Now, in the case of the majority of people, they haven't made the noise for 18 months. So it's heightened, right? There's no way if Tottenham had flags out and shit, right, yesterday, and you could say it's a bit over the top. But if fans had been going last season, I don't think they'd have done that. I think it's just the occasion of it's been so long, and there was lots of that going on at other stadiums as well, across not just the Premier League, lower leagues and stuff, in terms of making real concerted efforts for atmosphere, etc. So I think we know that what we saw last year, this is why nothing we've done has looked at home and away data from last year. It's a waste of time, because we know that that's not going to carry on. Football fans have an impact on the result on a pitch. It also adds a greater element of unpredictability. You know, the pressure on a referee and things like that, right? People make more mistakes. Some people, one of the things I spoke about was actually that I think defenders away from home will have better concentration. I definitely don't think it harmed Dyer and Sanchez, knowing they had a wall of 17,000 people behind them in the second half, willing them to clear every ball out of the box. Concentration levels are much higher, because although you know millions are watching, you definitely don't want to let down the guy who's going to shout at you behind you. So concentration levels higher, I think, for home players particularly. So it's definitely not going to be 50. We'll get back to whatever the normal average is in terms of home wins, be it 60% or whatever it normally is. I'm sure we'll get back to that. In terms of there being 7 wins for home teams over the weekend rather than 3 away, I mean, if City had won at Tottenham, is 6v4, and then maybe we're not having this conversation. So I wouldn't read too much into it. But yeah, it'll definitely get home advantage. Will be bigger this year, no doubt about it.
Yeah. If anyone wants more of an in-depth rundown on Tottenham and even West Ham, then yeah, Tottenham, one of our Patreon pods, is a good one to sign up for. Eric Nez Onstadt says that I've got a dilemma, Suj, starting Barnes against you, being West Ham, of course, or transfer him to Ben Rama. I don't think it's a dilemma. I think you just stick with Barnes. It's one that the differential on Ben Rama could easily outscore Barnes against us. I don't doubt that. It's a home tie for West Ham. I don't think that's going to help. I think Barnes plays on the left, where we're defensively we are stronger with Soufal and whoever from defensive midfield can help cover on that side. So do I think Ben Rama will score more than Barnes? I probably do actually in that game. If Barnes was on the other flank, I think he could do a lot more damage to Creswell. But do I think that the points difference is worth using a transfer for with potential good fixtures down the road for Leicester? No, I don't see it at all. So I would stick to Barnes, as tempting as it is to move to Ben Rama, and Ben Rama might outscore him in the game. If you want to be patient slightly longer term, I would stick to Barnes. Any thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add on that is we don't know if the questioner's got Antonio. And I think our answer is possibly a little bit influenced by the fact we've still got Antonio. I'd look at it and go, well, I'm going from one attacking coverage from two sides who have both got good game week 3 fixtures as well to going to 2 from one team and none from the other. So I think in the case of those, West Ham, Leicester, which are 2 sides are more likely to have more unpredictable results because they're not like the big 4. I'm happier to be spread, I think. So for me, that's an easy hold, Harvey Barnes. As I said to you as well, I think it's a possibility that they could go 2 up front, and Barnes, I think, would play. I don't think it'd be dropped. I think he'll play. So it's a definite stay for me.
And last but not least, we'll give a question out to John Steen, which is relevant for a lot of managers who are asking about whether it's a knee-jerk on certain transfers. And this is quite a well-put question. What do you consider a fire that needs to be put out? And how big of a problem does a player need to be before it's a need to move him on? What have you got any thoughts around
need versus
when you're going to start and fires really?
Well, that's it.
I mean, we've only had one week's worth of data, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't not want Bruno Fernandes in my team. Of course, I want Bruno Fernandes, but there's a need versus a want. We speak about this a lot on the Sky Fantasy podcast. I don't have any need that's bigger than my want at the moment. Now, come game week 4, that situation might change. So I think if you don't have that at the moment, roll the transfer. Honestly, the only way I think different to that is, I think those who are intent on wildcarding pre-game week 4, pre-game week 4, then yeah, it'd be interesting to see so many people talk about using the early wildcard. I wonder if the fact that game week 1's been so high scoring, and there'll be more people who think they've got a better team than probably they thought pre-game week. I wonder if that changes the psyche a bit, and they think, well, I don't need to wildcard early. I've got this really good return. We all know what's coming in the next couple of weeks. It's the 29-pointer or something, because it's levels out. You know it's got to happen. So accept that. Just accept it as a really high scoring week. I think it was most goals in a Premier League opening day since 03-04.
Wow. Okay.
And to be honest, the way the games were refereed and stuff shouldn't particularly surprise us. And the amount of attacking quality we've got. Tell Real Madrid we don't need no Super League. This is the Super League, the league we watch every week. It is the Madrid Extra Zone. You ever seen this account? It's funny fuckers. I think they just tweet stuff that they see people say in a bar in Madrid. Real Madrid are considering leaving La Liga to go and play in the Premier League. Are you on drugs? Like, honestly, I don't understand people who actually type this shit out and still press tweet. Honestly,
I think for me, it's obviously fires it very much like injury or a player being dropped and not starting is a big concern. You want to fix that, and the more money you've got tied up in that, obviously, the bigger a concern it is. And then it drops down to if they're not performing, if the team's not performing and the player's not scoring points. Classic examples like a Luca Dean or even Luke Shaw from this weekend didn't return, but the team performed okay. And what was the difference maker for them returning for me? For Luca Dean, it was Michael Keane not messing up, and for Luke Shaw, similar. So Ayling not putting a worldie in the top corner. So if the difference, what would have needed to happen for them to return? If it's like, okay, this team needs an overhaul, then yeah, I think then that's suddenly a fire that I'm thinking I need to move this on. But if it's smart, fine margins from returning and not hitting a post or something. Like before the penalty, Antonio hit the post, right, with the header when it deflected off and fell to Fornals. I mean, fine margins. If it's fine margins,
which would have been Soufal assist, as well.
Crazy. Just sit tight. And if it's a case of the team are not playing well and then the player is nowhere near getting any returns, conceding 2s and 3s, or no attacking threat, then it's a fire that I think I need to put out.
To be honest, go back to the
very little.
the Ben Rama Barnes question, the Ben Rama's the want, isn't it? It's not a need. The Harvey Barnes is not a bad player. It's not like he can't get returns at the weekend. So you want that. It's a desire. You don't need it. I'd say to people, imagine you've got let's just say hypothetically, someone will be out there who's got Jota, Greenwood and Barnes, for example. And you think, Jota, Greenwood scored at the weekend. That's great. I'm happy with them. I'll sell Barnes to Ben Rama. Okay, fine. Might work out for you. But then suddenly Jota and Greenwood become selection concerns. Then what?
Yeah.
So if you've got players like that as well,
think a little bit that might be down the road. Yeah,
we've got good. Greenwood's got a good fixture. Jota's got a good fixture. To be honest, Barnes got a good fixture. Like as it would stand, I'd actually fancy you to probably beat them next Monday night because I think they've got some issues defensively, but they're very, very capable. We know that, right? Yeah. And defensively, you know, you've conceded 2 again yesterday as well, right?
It's frustrating.
Was it 1 clean sheet in about 14 or so? It's not great either.
Let's see. I think that's it. That's a wrap for today's.
Can FPL managers roll a transfer? Can they do it? Game week 2 is trigger happy. I want to play with my team. Honestly, unless I got an injury, there's no way I'm making a transfer this week.
Yeah, agreed. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the show. We've plugged all the things we need to, like the rest of the content and Patreon and all the rest of it. So just to say, stay safe, look after yourselves, and we'll be back at you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man, child.